we have a very unusual, luckily, but significant issue sometimes with somebody's reading development when they get what we call a fluency block. And what happens is that their decoding gets better and better, and that's great, but they never step from decoding into just sort of fluent reading. They sort of decode faster and faster. But of course, that's not reading. That's a very sort of labor. It's like crawling instead of walking or running. So the reason for this is that there's a very specialist bit of cortex in the brain, sometimes called the letterbox. It's right beside the cortex you use to recognize faces. Brain is absolutely brilliant at picking up a face, even with very limited information, and often being able to recognize it. And it is also able to recognize patterns in a random delivery and work out what the pattern is. And my theory on this is that it was used for when we were navigating around the woods. You come to a junction in the path, you look at the trees around you and the bushes and the little chinks of light, and you would sort of get a feeling for where you were, even though what you were looking at was very similar to 100 or 200 other junctions you knew in the woods. You sort of knew where you were, and it was this cortex, the letterbox that we now use for reading, that was helping you with that. Now, if somebody has developed their decoding without engaging the letterbox, which is of course possible, you can just connect the visual cortex to the auditory cortex and do a sort of mapping without using this particular bit of cortex, then they'll be able to do the decode, but they'll never get the speed that this specialist pattern recognition cortex can give. The solution to that is to do things which involve it, and so our technique with that is to use sort of mixed up words, like a little bit like anagrams really, where we take a word, we mix the letters around, and then we play a game trying to recognize what the word is, or selecting one of 5 options where we've given the word. And that seems to help engage this cortex, because of course that's what it's brilliant at. You'll find that it's quite possible to read words, text, where the letters are being mixed up a bit within each word, at about 80% of the fluency that you read normal text. There's examples of that here on the website. And so it's this bit of cortex that can let you do that at lightning speed, and we need to engage it, and we generally find that that works quite well once we use these special activities and games for it. And you can do that as well just at home. You play a game where you get a bunch of letters, somebody thinks of a word, lays the letters out, not in order, and the other person has to try and spot what the word might be. And that will engage the cortex and get that process kicking in.